guys, there's just a couple of things I want you to know about the egg production. It is still called meiosis, M-E-I-O-S-I-S, because again we're starting with 46 chromosomes ending up with 23. This time we call it oogenesis because obviously we're creating an egg as opposed to a sperm, so not spermatogenesis. Alright, so here is our original cell, okay, with our 46 chromosomes. And you can see it's going to go through a series of steps, which I'm not going to make you guys memorize, but essentially we are going to end up with one oocyte, or one egg, that has our 23 chromosomes. Okay, so half of your embryo. And instead of, when we talk spermatogenesis, we ended up with 4 sperm. We ended up with 1 egg here, plus 3 what we call polar bodies. Okay, essentially these are just extra leftover material. These will be eliminated, they'll degenerate, so we should only really be generating 1 egg, okay, per month, ideally. Alright, so this is the way to sort of control that. So again, when we looked at the males, we saw 4 sperm. With the females, we end up with those 23 chromosomes. However, only 1 egg, okay, 3 polar bodies that are going to be gotten rid of. The other thing I want to talk about in this video is the follicle. And the follicle is the surrounding capsule, alright, to the egg, and I'll show you an actual slide here. So you can see in the middle here we've got an oocyte, or we would call it an egg. And it has got a layer of cells around it that we call the zona pellucida. And then it's got a second layer of cells, okay, that comes around the outside, and we'll talk about this antrum in just a second. Okay, we call this second layer of cells the corona radiata. Okay, so that egg is really kind of secure inside there. Okay, prior to puberty, women are actually born with all of what we call primordial follicles or primordial eggs. So essentially these are these really small structures. There's about 400,000 per ovary. Obviously we'll never release that in a lifetime. But they are there, present from birth. They're just extremely small, and you can see without the direct intervention of some hormones, they're never going to grow into a fully formed egg. Okay, they're just there. But now we're hitting puberty. Okay, so we're getting FSH, we're getting LH, okay, from our pituitary gland, and you can see, right, that we will start to get this slightly larger egg with a slightly larger follicle, and we call this first step the primary follicle, sorry. Alright, as we go through the monthly hormone cycle, okay, it's going to get even larger, right, so it'll continue to grow until we call it this preantral follicle. And then you're going to see this last step, this mature follicle, or this mature antral follicle. And you should see here, it's pretty easy to tell. There's this nice big pocket of fluid. The egg is off to one side. That's what we were seeing in this picture, right? The oocyte is here. This is the antrum, which is fluid-filled. That's what it looks like just prior to ovulation. Okay, so here we go, right? The egg is now ovulated, but that outer layer of cells is left behind. Okay, so it's just that inner portion, right? Just this inner portion that's going to be expelled. All of this outer section here, okay, is going to remain behind. All right, we call that little layer that's left behind the corpus luteum. Okay, and assuming there's no pregnancy, which we'll talk about next week, that corpus luteum will kind of shrink and disappear and shrink and disappear, and as it gets smaller, we just call it the corpus albicans. Okay, and then it ultimately disappears. Starting the next month, we'll take some more primordial follicles, and we'll keep, right, continuing this process. And the reality is this is happening, okay, with several follicles at the same time. They're in different stages of these development, but it has to go through this series of stages in order to have ovulation. And then that corpus luteum is what's left behind. And again, no pregnancy. It will shrink into that corpus albicans and disappear altogether. All right, guys, so now go ahead and answer your questions.